Hello, community, and welcome back to another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita podcast. I am your host, Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, C-Suite advisor and board director, helping members of the C-Suite community reframe diversity conversations from difficult to different. I am here with Ms. Kelli Kirkland, founder and CEO of Genius Kids Club. She's here with me on our Real Conversations from the C-Suite. Welcome, Kelli. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you so much. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. I can't wait to dig in and have some real talk.
Oh, we're going to have some real talk. As a matter of fact, I've got notes because the talk is just going to be so real today. So, first of all, I want to properly introduce you as, again, the founder and CEO of Genius Kids Club, and as someone who's held C-suite diversity-related positions for Fortune 500 companies. I would love to divulge the company that you're with today, but we don't want to do that. We want to go ahead and honor your privacy in that area. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you some stories about how you founded your company. Specifically, I want our audience to hear the story about the parent who questioned whether you were the teacher, and even after learning that you were the owner, turned and walked away. That is going to be our opening discussion for today. So where would you like to start?
Well, we'll just dig right in. No need to tiptoe into it. Let's just dive deep into the deep end. So I created and own a company called Genius Kids Club, and it's the primary focus is on science. We also do some art as well, but the primary focus is on chemistry, physics, biology for kids in elementary school and early middle school. So
now, how did you come to that specific topic area?
My son, at the age of 4, he was inducted into Mensa, the High IQ Society. So his IQ is only a few points off of Albert Einstein. So he keeps me on my toes. He's
okay.
And sitting down over our Friday night Domino's pizza. We love our Friday pizza nights, different pizza place every Friday, but that was Domino's night. And I was leaving the job that I currently worked. And I was just trying to decide what my next move was. I had saved a little bit so I could sort of make a decision that I could take my time and not move quickly and just make a wise decision that really spoke to my heart. And he sat there at our kitchen table and said, well, why don't you make a company where you do the stuff like you do with me? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you know how we do science and we do all these projects and learn all this stuff about science and how the world works, learn all this cool stuff. He says, but not for a grade, just for fun, just for learning, just because we love it. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah. And you know how you add art in there too? And we get creative. And I said, okay. I said, but Apollo, science and art don't really go together. And I'll never forget it. He said, yes, they do, Mama. Because if you want to be a great scientist, you need to be creative and think outside the box like an artist. And if you want to be a great artist, you need to understand how different things work together, different chemicals, different paints, everything's work together and how they don't, different canvases. He said, so yeah, they do go together. And I went, genius. And I called my accountant and I said, Stephanie, I have no idea how to start a business, but Apollo just had the most genius idea for a kids club and I want to make it.
There it is. Oh, I love that. Now, Apollo is with Mensa. And where did he get some of that brain space? Tell us about your background. Don't be shy.
Well, I will tell you, there have been times where people have questioned where he's gotten it. Apollo's father is white and of Jewish descent. And so people automatically assume it's from him. People have told me to my face, oh, he must get that from his dad. Oh, that must be from his dad. And I love that his father is so honest. And his father says he might get his art from me, but nothing else. Everything else is from his mother.
And your background.
His father is very smart too, but I can appreciate that he understands my intellect and is very vocal about who I am in this world. And, I think it's equal, but he's very generous. And as Apollo says, he's accurate. Just let daddy say it because it's true.
Accurate. Okay. And your background is you have a degree in
English literature, which has nothing to do with science.
Okay.
But when I was in high school, I was taking an honors biology class and I fell in love, like love. Like, I mean, if I could have married that biology class, I would have. I loved it so much. And I went back and I told my teacher, Mr. Watkins, I told him that I wanted to be a scientist and I wanted to be a geneticist and study chromosomal abnormalities and genetic mutations. And he laughed. And he said, oh, sweetie, you're too pretty to spend the rest of your life in a lab coat. You know what you could be? You could be a newscaster. Or a weather girl.
Oh, So at least he allowed you to blend your beauty and your brains by being a weather girl, right?
So I thought that translated to meaning he was the smartest scientist I knew. So I thought that meant I wasn't smart enough. And so I put science on the back burner for many, many years. And then at UCLA, I took a science class just for fun because I was ahead on my requirements. And I took a kinesiology class with all the pre-med students and I aced it. And I was like, I'm good at science. What was he talking about? But it's like
Yeah.
7 years later, I realized, oh, you're good at science. So I guess Apollo got that love and gene from me, even though it was sort of squashed early on in my career. And I think that's also why I became so passionate about working with kids at that age for two reasons, Dr. Nita. One is because I need kids to know they can be whoever they want to be. And if I may be the only voice that tells them, yes, you can do this. Don't worry about someone else saying you can't. Yes, you can. Because there are sadly so many educators who, especially for children of color, are telling us what we cannot achieve.
You know, I want to pause right there because in my own background and in some of my informal research that I've done with other women of color, it usually happens around the second grade where we're told you can't do this or you should probably do that. And when I think about my mom's story, when she was coming up, the big thing was secretaries or nurses. And community, we are not disparaging the honor in being a secretary or a nurse. What we're saying is children of color are usually said this is all you can be, and not even despite the evidence to the contrary, the mental capability, the emotional intelligence that our young children have, we're usually pigeonholed into one of only these categories, and that just is not the case. And even in this generation, that is still very popular to find.
It is still very popular. It is sadly so true in this day and age that it is happening. And I find that there is a desperate need for educators of color to be in those spaces because it's not just for our Black and brown children, but it's for all the other children who, I forget what the exact statistics are, but it's something like 85% of all educators are white and mostly white women. And so that's all that kids will think. They think those are the only people who can teach, who are smart, who are leaders. So it is important that they see faces that look like mine and look like yours at the front of the classroom, holding the microphone, being in positions of leadership and education so that they can go, oh, wow, I might have thought it was only this, but now I see it's that. And every year that I have been able to be in a classroom or do anything in the sphere of education, it has changed students. And I don't want to pivot too much, but since we're on education, I did want to share one quick story about a student that I had for several years at Genius Kids Club, and she moved to another state. I won't name the state, but she moved to a state and in an area that is predominantly white. She's a white student, blonde hair, blue eyes, like a little Miss America. So cute.
From back in the day, because we've progressed in our Miss Americas.
Like what we think is the, whatever. And but she was always connected with me. She still writes me, she still calls me, her family, we are very close. And the mother called one day after they had moved and said, I got called to the principal's office about my daughter, which was a surprise. Her daughter's amazing, never in trouble. There was a problem with her work. And I was like, oh, what could have happened? Because she's brilliant and on top of it. And the children had